Can the Pelicans make a playoff run next year similarly to the Denver Nuggets or the Miami Heat? Let's talk about it.
You must know that first. Can't nothing and nobody fade what we trying to do and what we about to do. Second thing is, we got this game on our level. You understand what I'm saying?
Welcome to another episode of In Space. I am your host, as always, Chris Connor. Shout out to the sponsors, DraftKings Sportsbook, Birdsall Law Firm, as well as New York Life. Today's episode is very present, but also future. If you've been watching the NBA playoffs, Denver Nuggets they've secured their spot, their ticket into the NBA Finals, and the Miami Heat are one win away from matching up against them to decide who wins the NBA championship. And regardless to, as Boston won game 4 and will have at least another game at home in Boston before that series is ultimately decided, Miami's had a hell of a run. And I think specifically the story and the routes that Miami took to get to where they're at, playoff run alone, and the route that Denver is currently still a part of, are very interesting. And when you're talking about the New Orleans Pelicans, I think that there's some similarities and some parallels that you can draw there. And I'm curious, as always, to what the people think. So let's talk about it. Denver Nuggets. Denver, my perspective, they were starting to become the team that people rolled their eyes at. You knew that they were going to make the playoffs. You knew that they were more than likely going to be a high or competitive seed. Hell, if healthy. And even when they weren't healthy, last year, for example, last season, missing Jamal Murray, they made the playoff. And Michael Porter Jr. as well. They made the playoffs, and Nikola Jokic won another MVP award. Now, there was a lot of talk about that, not making out the first round, getting swept, whatever the case may be, and how that related to his MVP status. The people that were on the other side of that equation pointed to, well, let's see what Denver does when they're healthy again. This season, they were healthy. And sometimes teams that get into their situation, maybe they get hot at the right time, which we will talk about with Miami. Sometimes, they simply, they have a good route. They have good matchups. Look, Denver had some difficulty on their way. There were questions about Jamal Murray, and was he the same guy that had those spectacular performances in the bubble? Could a team that I think with the guys that they play have some valuable depth, when we're just talking about talent, player for player, especially in playoff settings, were they going to be able to outstand or withstand a team like Phoenix, a team like Los Angeles? Could their best 1, 2, 3rd, 4th players, could they match what they were doing in the regular season, bring that in the postseason? And I got to say, for the most part, they've been able to do it in the regular season. Jamal Murray, I think he got off to somewhat of a slow start, but he found himself. He had some nights where he was inefficient and maybe, or erratic, which was always been my worry. If he had the right mindset and the right, the right vision, was he able to be aware of timing and place when it came to really some of the shots that he takes, or how aggressive he is when you have, a reigning at the time MVP player in Nikola Jokic standing right there. There were questions about their defense. There were questions about, what kind of player was Jokic? I heard all these things. I read all these things. Was he just a guy that had really good regular season success? Maybe can win a playoff series, but just isn't good enough to lead you to an NBA Finals, lead you deep into a Western Conference Finals. Now we're talking about him having a chance to win a championship. He's generational, and his generational ability. We got a chance to really fully see that match the dude that's been having a regular season success. So that, Joker was Joker. But Jamal Murray stepped his game up to another level. Michael Porter Jr. had some moments. Aaron Gordon, quiet, I'd say for the most part, but, game 4 against the Lakers played really well. And defensively has given them a lot, I would say. But outside of that, Bruce Brown, Caldwell Pope had a big Lakers series, but the interesting part and the reason that we talk about that I'm kind of comparing them with the Pelicans, like you look at that team and they are a little top heavy, and the difference in what they were last year and what they are today. A lot of ways is health. Certain guys got a chance to experience, but it's health and it's the right veteran additions. A lot of people didn't agree with them getting rid of Monty Morris. A lot of people didn't agree with them getting rid of Bones Highland. Not re-signing DeMarcus Cousins, not having a backup center that they're playing. Game 4 against the Lakers, they came out, they played 7 people. Bruce Brown played 20 minutes off the bench, and Jeff Green played, I think, 10. No backup center, none of the guys that we maybe got accustomed to with some past teams. All gone. They're stars, and the guys that they relied on, that they called from the bench, it worked. They had enough. Now that takes a lot. That takes good health, and that takes adding around the edges properly. A modern team. They have a lot of shooting options around their superstars, and that matters. That matters. The right kind of guys, and I think that's what the Pelicans are going to have to do. But it all starts with being healthy. If Jokic misses and plays 30 games, they're a different team, right? Jamal Murray, we saw without him, without Michael Porter Jr., what they looked like, last year. I am just different team. Jokic could only do so much, but outside of that, they added some quality guys, around the edges. They drafted, a dude who I think is going to pay huge dividends for them. At some point, Christian Braun. I think Christian Braun's going to be a heck of a role player in this league at some point. He's going to be one of those dudes that maybe when one of these hire one of the veterans that they can't afford to pay, at some point ends up leaving one of their other role players, he's going to be a dude that they're going to call up to step up and play. But I look at the Pelicans and I say, okay, the issue here is that, Jokic, you'd be asking Zion to do, like, your generational talent and Zion to do something once. And maybe if you want to count the year of him playing 60 games, but you're asking him to do something next year that Jokic has pretty much consistently done. He's avoided any type of major injuries. And in that, he's gotten playoff reps. Zion hasn't played a playoff minute, even a play-in minute. But the point is that those guys were healthy. And I don't think that their roster is perfect, but it works enough in the right ways. And it's balanced enough with some of the defensive options, the shooting options, and their stars were stars. Their stars showed up and they played. At least their first 2 guys. You could count on them pretty much every night. Murray had a couple games that was like, but even in games that started off bad where he was shooting a terrible percentage. I think he scored 13 or 14 points the next quarter. Crazy. Different level right now. Are the Pelicans able to simply be healthy and put themselves in a situation where their stars can be stars together? Is that even possible? We have to find out. We don't even know what they look like enough together at this stages of their career, at their life, at the ages that they're at, where their games are currently at. But it's very interesting to see what Denver didn't make any drastic changes. I think that they have a hell of a coach, a hell of a motivator, and Mike Malone, a dude that their players listen to and kind of, and will run through a wall for. He'll call them out as well, which is very important, holding his guys accountable. But I mean, I love what they did in the offseason to begin with. I thought it was awesome, and it's very interesting to watch it match what they did in the regular season and what they're doing. They've been the most consistent team, I think, since since the offseason, and just being solid in the draft, solid in free agency, great in the regular season, and now great in the playoffs. Could the Pelicans replicate that kind of success, and what would it take for them to do it? Is it simply health? Going to be interesting to see. The other side of that equation are the Miami Heat. A team that was inconsistent in the regular season, had some issues. Guys that are playing in the star lineup today weren't playing the same amount of minutes, weren't starting in the beginning of the regular season, the expectations were different. You were begging a team to bail you out of the Kyle Lowry signing. Wasn't working. Same with Duncan Robinson. That failed. Tyler Herro's playing well. If you expected Bam to take an extra step, I don't know if he necessarily did, even though I think he's a really good player. If there was another, I thought he would make an even higher elevation, a higher step this year. I really didn't see it in his game, but he's consistent. You know what to expect out of him for the most part, even with his flaws. And then Jimmy's Jimmy. But how many people would have thought that he would be this level of guy? You knew he was clutch. He's always been clutch. Dating back to his days in Chicago. He's always been clutch. He's always been a hell of a competitor. He's never going to quit. He's been a two-way dude, but he's been like, we look at playoff basketball and the way the game is right now, 3-point shooting. Jimmy's not that dude. He's shooting a little bit more threes, I think, in the postseason, but he's playing his game, playing to his strengths. But his strengths have been dominant. For a dude that in the regular season, you wouldn't put in your top 10 NBA players, is playing top 2, top 3, and we're talking about postseason, total overall postseason. He's playing like a top 3, a top 2 player in the world. Seriously, he's that good. He's playing that well to eliminate Milwaukee in the way that they did. Flaws and all. For them to come back and eliminate New York, who New York was favored, I think, by a lot of folks. And now to be in a situation where you're up 3-1 against Boston. Without Tyler Herro, without your third most important player. And it's role player after role player. Gabe Vincent is showing up, having great performances. Max Strus, who's going to be a free agent, who we've talked about on the Propels Talk show as maybe someone the Pelicans should target or be interested in. But these same guys that, Duncan Robinson was out of the rotation, he's back in the rotation now playing well. And yeah, you got Cody Zeller. This isn't a super talented team. This isn't a team that, they're well coached. They're meticulous. They game playing well. And it's almost like they game plan for each game. And like, this isn't just, all right, Jimmy, it's just your show. Tonight, it might be his show. Tonight, Gabe Vincent, we're gonna let you have the ball in your hands a little bit more. And now all of a sudden, look, Kyle Lowry's looking, even in a bench role, he's had moments where he's looked like the dude that they paid. But the reason I asked about them and can the Pelicans replicate that type run, because they were in the play-in. They were one game away from not making the playoffs at all. After losing to Atlanta in the first play-in game, the first seeding game. Nobody picked them to beat Milwaukee. Maybe some picked them to beat New York. Nobody thought they'd be in a situation to possibly eliminate Boston. And even if they do, or if they don't eliminate Boston and they lose in 7, they did way more than you would expect it. Once again, without Tyler Herro, which, I mean, it's crazy. Kevin Love is in his starting lineup, bro. Cleveland said, this ain't going to work. we have our guys right now, not even off the bench. Kevin Love is starting. Limited role, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever. Miami said, no, we can make it work. I mean, that's amazing. But for them, what's interesting when it comes to the Pelicans comparison comes in like this is that most people counted them out, and they got hot at the right time. It's almost like an NFL style. You know how, in football, when we start talking about playoffs and, and say, you get hot at the right time playing whatever team's playing the best football towards the end of the year is a team that, you're scared to play the most, and team that can go on the most dangerous run and possibly win a championship. You want to be playing your best football at the right time at the end of the year. Forget what you're doing in week 2, week 3. Basketball look different. Denver being an example. But no, Miami's on an NFL style run, just playing their best basketball of the year in the postseason, and nobody would have expected them with that talent. Jimmy Butler has been spectacular, both sides of the floor, rebounding, assisting, scoring, whatever is needed, he's doing it, and he's doing it every game. When you could argue, for sure, 2 out of the 3 matchups that they've had in the playoffs, Miami hasn't been the most talented team on the floor. So you look at Brandon Ingram, who in some ways, from how we're talking about how they approach the game, mid-range out, a little bit of a slower pace, fundamentally based, some post work, pinch post area, those kind of styles, that kind of style of play, not really will shoot threes, but isn't a consistent 3-point sniper, I say at a high volume. We got a lot of questions about, can a team that doesn't, about 3-point shooting and, can you win with a star that maybe isn't that kind of guy? Jimmy gets to another NBA Finals. I mean, he's defying what, the expectations or the things that people are putting on him. And he's doing it at an age where, listen, man, it was no question that bubble season, similar to Jamal Murray, which is really ironic. He's proven that it wasn't a fluke. And even if you didn't think he was, even if you believed in his clutch, if you believed in a player that he was, he's doing it as the guy when it matters the most. And whether that guy's whether we're talking about Brandon Ingram just for comparing players, or we're talking about Zion Williamson, can the Pelicans replicate that? Could they be a team next year? Maybe they're in a similar situation, unfortunately, to where they're at the end of the Western Conference playoff race. They sneak in and they just simply play their best basketball at the best of time. I don't know because I personally speaking, Miami is, Eric Spoelstra's done a great job, man. Done a great job, but he always does a great job. He's one of the greatest coaches in NBA history. Asking Willie Green and his coaching staff to replicate what Miami has done and what they're doing. Come on now. That, you can't ignore that when you talk about some of the schemes, some of the actions, some of the decisions, the rotations, the creativity, the motor that's playing, their fast starts. Miami they ain't missed a beat. Maybe like they did in the regular season. They have not missed a beat in the postseason. You got to give a lot of credit to that coaching staff as well. But regardless on what side of the fence that you fall on, just from the aspect of hottest team, right time, and just dominance, no matter who's in front of them, no matter the spreads, no matter the, what the experts think, no matter what the projections are, Miami's one game away from making the NBA Finals. And that's crazy, all things considered. I'm curious what y'all think. Do y'all think the Pelicans can replicate either of these type of runs? What would be most exciting for you? We've seen this team make the play-in last year and become, in 2 games out of, 2 wins out of getting to the second round, possibly. Maybe we'll talk about a Miami run last year with BI and them. And then this season, before the Zion injury, top 4, top 3 in the West, he stays healthy. Maybe that vision's a little bit clearer. I can see it happening either way. Somewhere in the middle will be perfectly fine for me. Either way, there's a lot of things that would have to happen from health, availability, coaching, adjustments, performances, and roster changes. I think for either of these roads to be a realistic destination for them. But get in the comments. Let me know what you think. Appreciate the support as always, man. I'm thinking about doing a Dyson Daniels show soon. That maybe before the end of the week, I'll put that together. And I'm gonna get with Larry Nash to see when he wants to run it back on the spaces and have what I think would be more of a lesser politically correct kind of show, I think, on his side. But we'll see. Appreciate y'all as always. Hope y'all having a good. Are we in summer yet? Now, I don't think we officially in summer, but when I get 3 days at 80 degrees back to back to back in Chicago, that's feels like summer to me. Be safe. Have fun, y'all. Enjoy the rest of the playoffs. I'll talk to y'all soon. Where my dog at? I don't know how long he gonna be here, so I may have to retire this at some point. But Najee, get us out of here.
In the building. I told you last time, get with us. Well, get out of here, man.